So hello and welcome to MyWhoosh, to the Sunday Race Club. We're here at qualifier race number 3. It's we have 4 qualifying races to be followed by one final at the end of the month as always. My name's Matt Payne. I'm back from a busy weekend away and managed to come back just at the right time because we're on to the Tal Marib course. Really looking forward to this after a hot weekend in the sun last weekend and lots of live gigs supporting some of the UK scene. Be back and able to see a really different course and even hotter than it was in the sun of Scarborough. Our riders today, well, they're taking on 44.8 kilometre course, total elevation 805 meters, and as you can see, it's a lapped circuit. So our riders will start out on the top left-hand corner. They're going to work their way around, and they're going to basically keep on running around that circuit. We have 2 checkpoints. We start and finish on the way from the top left to the right-hand side. So A to B, basically, going around in a clockwise direction. This is our of 9K long, 259 meters of climbing from B to point A. Well, a lot less, only 29 meters of climbing. Now, the team categories, well, interestingly, the UAE team all their own way last time out. They were the team who came in second place, with the top team being the Danish Pavlova squad. The Pavlova squad, though, down to 2 riders this time round, but they'll still be looking to figure strongly. The Yorkshire Pudding Express well represented this time round with Ferry, Cutler Grays and Odlin. But will they be able to take on the Belgian Waffles, who've always been strong? They're joined by the full team this time round. Ken Gutierrez and co take them on up in the competition. And don't forget, of course, UAE Clan team looking to take back that top title. Category 2 racing, well, our top team there has been very consistent in the sense that we have Team Italy B. They took the victory last time around. That team category 2. However, you've got to watch out for X-Pro. They were the top team in qualifying number 1. Cyclezone don't have enough riders in there to qualify for the team, but Menes and Primero are looking to be up there. But don't discount the UAE Falcons with Hassan Al Restri. We've still got Hubbards in there as well, and Hubbards, of course, with Simon Acker riding really strongly as well. The riders, well, Berke Guyven, qualifying number 1, 5th place. Is he going to be able to push right up there? But they are going to be up against it when you've got the strength of Team Italy B with Maglio, Cagula, Moredo, and Avedo in that mix. They're joined by the Climbers team, but the Climbers team, even though they've got strong riders like Abello and Ipino, they're not going to necessarily be in the mix. And watch out for Sebastian Wolf, one of our individual riders, a rider who has in the top 3 in qualifying number 1 and in qualifier number 2. And that means that he could be up there and figuring strongly in that second category race. In the third category racing, well, again, lots of great teams in here. Great to see so many new teams that are starting to join in the mix, and a huge race field in this category 3. Now, our top teams, Warrior Men, have consistently been team number 1 in qualifying number 1 and qualifying number 2, and in fact, getting into the top 5 teams overall. However, the Warrior Men's team, only with 2 representatives, both Londonos, are not going to be up in the mix for the team win, but watch out for them, because in terms of individual riders, Giuliano Londono has won both. So we are going to see just who is going away. We're down on our riders are lined up and ready. Who will be the rider who's going to take away a victory with 43 seconds, just under 43 seconds to go? As you see on the screens, the riders are starting to wind this up. They're starting to push on a little bit and get the heart rate up there, which is great to see. Now, if you've not watched on the Sunday Race Club, don't forget that you've got lots of data coming your way. Top left-hand side of the rider's stats, so watts, revs, heart rate. Top right-hand side, where they are on the course, what the map's doing, what the average speed is doing, how many meters they've ascended, and how far they've gone around the 5 laps that make up 44.8K. right-hand side of the screen, the position of the rider we're watching Johan Moreno off from the start. And at the moment, as Moreno kicks off from the start, currently sitting into second place straight off from the gun. And this is where it is key to kick onwards here. So our riders kicking on strongly. They've got to put the pressure. They've really got to start to accelerate out now. And this is where this big bunch is rattling away. Really good to see second and third category riders in the mix here. And already the power is on, the pressure is on these riders to perform. And you can see we're seeing 420 watts here from Pablo Popovic from the UAE clan team. Popovic, an individual winner in his own right, as well as a regular team winner. And Popovic looking impressive at the moment as he moves his way up towards the front. So here we are on the Sunday Race Club here on MyWhoosh. Our riders just coming off from the start with Hani Mejio at the moment, and Hani just trying to close up. But the front of that race, it is incredibly quick, and you can see the difference between our rider on the left-hand side of your screen, and the riders now appearing 100 meters on the road. And that's how quickly this race starts, and that is how fast these riders, they know they've got to be quick from the gun. Now in with SS, teammate of Pablo Popovic. Popovic, SS, in that UAE clan team with Yusuf Mirza, with Saeed Safrazad, and of course the team captain, Mr. X100, who we are watching now. He's a rider with the blue bandana in the center of your screen. So the rider that doesn't move about, that's the rider that we're watching. That's whose name is up above the screen. And we're just keeping an eye on them at the moment, because as they push on here, this speed very quick, 46 kilometers an hour at the moment for Vink, who is on the attack. So at the moment, Michael Vink starting to go clear of this group. Now, Michael Vink is a regular top 10, the Danish Pavlova rider. Last week's qualifier, 9th place, a top 10 placing for him. Will he be able to repeat that this time around? Don't forget, these riders are racing on the MyWhoosh platform. If you want to see what it's all about, and if you are over at the Eurobike show, we have the team down there. They're down at the booth in the Frankfurt halls down there. Make sure you jump in. They're down in hall 11.1 in Stampede 15. Make sure you jump in and go have a look. There's loads of great giveaways in there, and we're looking to see just who loves the platform. We've seen loads of great feedback down there, and lots of people looking to jump on. People, of course, riding down at the Eurobike stand to win a Colnago C68 bike. What an amazing bike. And of course, to meet our riders, who, of course, MyWhoosh very proud to be involved with our UAE team Emirates and the UAE team UAQ, because they very, very strong squads, and the ADQ squad and the UAE Emirates team, brilliant to have the riders down there. We've got to say a massive thank you to the star riders, the pro cyclists who've gone down, and it's there to the end of the day today. If you are watching live and you're going to be heading down to the Eurobike stand, the team down there very, very busy. And don't forget, of course, you can chat with the guys down there all about the platform and the racing. And of course, is one of the key parts of MyWhoosh, along with those training programs, along with a great experience, that immersive riding experience, and it's really accurate as well. So all of our riders are being verified, and that process starting really early, and that runs right the way through. And as you can see, this bunch really starting to push on, but the drafting effect of sitting behind another rider, and that's when the rider's watts power number goes green. That is when you are seeing those riders start to get some draft here. So you can see at the moment 700 sat in that pack. Those numbers flick in and out, because that is as he moves in and out of the drafting effect. The more draft effects you take, the more that you are able to save energy, and that is so critical for us when they are out and racing. The more that you can save energy now, the more that you'll have for later. But of course, everybody wants to do the same. You don't come to a grinding halt with everybody trying to follow everybody. You always have aggressive ride. Cutler, always known to be on the attack. The Yorkshire Pudding Express is one of the most aggressive teams in the race field, in the men's racing. And Tim Cutler, again, Engine on as we push into this hill. We're now at 8% on this gradient, and you can see the watts really ramping up. Pablo Popovic up over 500 watts. Mikhail Hutkin now starting to push. He's at 7.7 watts per kilogram. That means so for every kilogram, he's putting out 7.8 watts. It's pushed him right to the front of the race field. I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to hold that up to the top. You can see that still stretching, and the predominance of those yellow jerseys moving up to the front. So the first big challenge here, 12.5%. Remember, the first half of this course has the majority of the climbing. As we set off, we've got 259 meters of climbing in the first 9K. We only have 29. As we roll back around underneath the desert bit here in Tel Marib, it is a very, very tough hard course, the first half, and this climb's taking its toll, 13.1%, and all of our riders riding with at least a 50% difficulty on their turbo trainer. So all the bikes on the turbo trainer, on those smart trainers, and does basically puts extra resistance on the further up the hillside you go, so that the riders are all racing at a realistic feel. They all have to have at least 50% difficulty set onto that trainer. And that is exactly what these riders are doing now. You can just see that yellow bunch on the right-hand side with Mr. X100 starting to pull clear. Left-hand side of your screen, Usama Kafti in there looking like Sarah is really starting to get into a rhythm. We're seeing 54 revs per minute though, and that means it's a very, very big gear he's pushing around there with 52 revs per minute. If you look at Mr. X100, super smooth, 69 revs per minute, and that's relatively low. Some of these riders will be pushing on at 100 revs per minute using a really, really low gear to spin round. Other riders sitting about that C cadence, keeping that rhythm now, which is a good rhythm. If you're out of the saddle, if you can keep that going at 70, that's really smooth. Drop down to 50, you're using a lot of muscle power, you're using a lot of strength rather than of speed does make a difference. Now, Mr. X100 pushing on the right hand side of the screen there, you can just see 467 watts. It's just starting to tick down now as that levels out behind. We've just seen some of our riders coming in. So Hani and Mejio at the moment. Hani is just trying to push into the climb at the moment, currently sitting at 2.7k on the course. Our race leaders at the moment on the right hand side of your screen at 4.1 kilometers as they come in and along. The first sector, 9k long, so plenty of time for these riders onwards. And once we get into the racing and we start getting some of those results in, then we'll bring you all that data. And when we do, we'll be looking and comparing whose heart rate is up high, who's great revs, who's got maybe something that is a high watts per kilo. So one of our light riders really pushing on. And that should vary because we've got two very different hard the course here. Jump on Tel Marib and jump on MyWhoosh, and it's a great platform to ride. Tel Marib is really interesting to ride because you've got these really steep climbs, these steep descents. It's about pace coming in and through. 8% descent at the moment in with Mr. X100. That UAE clan team looking to regain that top spot. They were number one team in qualifier number one. They were the second team only. Many teams would love to be second team, but they were second team in our second qualifier last week. And that was because we saw the Danish squad push onwards. Now, Yorkshire Pudding Express normally are right up there with Odling, Graves, Cutler and Ferry, but I know Phil Graves has been out having a little bit of downtime, and I think going to affect it. So that may well be the case that the Yorkshire Pudding Express maybe not quite as fast or up to strength as they maybe have been. So other riders to watch out for, Jonas Bjarhed in this good Mikael Utkin as well. Bjarhed, a regular contender in there. He's been top 10 in both of our qualifiers so far this month. In qualifier number 1, he was in 8th place last week. In qualifier number 2, and moved up to 4th place. And let's see if he can continue to push onwards. The more you ride the platform, the more that you can get out and race, the more you know what's coming up, the more you know what these courses are like, the more you know where to push. And that is really, really critical. And you can just see as these riders come across the bridge, we're going to go kick up into the dunes once again. And the road is ramping up. And as you ride along, the ride is currently at 0% gradient riding across the bridge over the lake at the moment. They've got to hit this road, though, and they've got to get the timing right as well. So when you ride on an esports platform, and if you play an esports game of any description, your setup affects how that rides, and there is a time lag in there. So between when you push on the pedals, when bike is recorded on your turbo trainer, and then when that turbo trainer transmits the data into the game. And when that happens, that little bit of time lag, the more that you know what that time lag is, the better you are to poised to when you need. And that's what side of the screen. The riders who knew exactly when to push on, squeezing on up that group. The riders who know their time lag, they're also doing the same, and that is really, really critical. At the moment, Pablo Popovic, right-hand side, big numbers, 400 watts. The riders just rolling around. Jefferson and Lodano. Remember, the Lodano really have been so strong in degree. Got to watch out for them. Johnson cut up at the moment on the left-hand side in category 2, and Osama Kafri pushing onwards, 34th at the moment for Osama. 5K covered. Right-hand screen, Pablo Popovic currently in this leading group there at 10%. Now, right-hand screen, just jumping across in to watch SS. Now, if you go on the MyWhooshes ride, you'll regularly come up against SS. You'll really come up against X100. They're great to ride with when they're riding steady. The moment that they put the hammer down, oh my goodness, you know your legs are going to hurt, you know your lungs are going to scream. And at the moment, SS marking out Tim Cutler. Cutler on the attack, no prizes for guessing. He's from the Yorkshire Pudding Express again. They breed them aggressive and tough down in the Yorkshires area. And I've got to say, I was on the microphone at the crits in the Barnsley Town Centre on Friday. That was a part of the British Cycling National Crit Series, and we saw some incredible races. Meanwhile, left-hand side of your screen, we said Phil Graves has been having some time off. I know at some points he's been letting shine, but at the moment, Phil Graves is not giving it big blicks at the moment. You can see he's on big numbers. He's on 400 watts, maybe just stretching his legs out, but Phil really needs to pick this up. If he's going to help that Yorkshire Pudding Express team, he's got a lot of ground to make up, but Phil Graves is a very talented athlete. I actually raced against Phil a long time ago at a time trial near Yorkshire, and he really did annihilate basically everybody else. He gave everybody a really good kick, and really interesting to see how Phil goes on. Interesting to see that Tom Harvey is sat in there. Whether he'll be able to stay with him on this climb, I'm not so sure, because Phil's starting to really wind this up. So Phil potentially just on the comeback. Remember, when our riders come back into racing, it's a rude job, because you really do push yourself so much harder on a platform like we've got here, where you're able to race against real avatars. These are people all around the globe here. We've got German, Belgian, we've got people from Colombia, we've got people from we've got Bahrain in here. You name it, basically all the way around the globe, right from Australasia right the way across to Europe and right the way across to the Americas. You name it, that's in here. It's great to see such a wide spread of people, and it does make the racing really interesting, because how else would you race against all these people? You can't if you're in a discipline which requires to be in the same place. But the great thing about MyWhoosh, guess what? The virtual cycling solution drops you straight in to a leading bunch where you can race against lots of people, irrespective of how fast you are. There's always somebody in this big great race against in our qualifiers here. It is a hope to qualify for those finals that come at the end of every month. So here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, our leading group of riders on the right of your screen at the moment. Mr. X100 tucked nicely in with this pack on this 13.6% climb. The first sector is not long, and it tells you this hilly section of 259 meters is tough. When you're seeing riders like Mitch Ferry start to struggle, Tim Cutler is just hanging on to the group on the right-hand side, coming in towards those climbs. Left-hand, Moreno coming in that category 2 competition. They are pushing hard at the moment, but the problem that they have, they know that they're coming in to this hillside. So in they go. They're now pushing their way into the climb, and this is where things get very, very tough indeed. So who is going to be able to take it out? Well, it's long before we see who has got the pace. as they make their way up here. So it is at the moment Popovic in that group. We're following 392 watts, 12.9%. The riders on the left of the screen on the climb before this, just coming out and away from the lakeside, and this is brutal. You can just see how hard this is. We've got really quality riders. Will Cornish, Liam Somerville, Sam McAfee, Tom Harvey, all in this group, all trying to push on and do this and push their team up. Osama out of the saddle again, 56 revs per minute, so a little bit quicker than we saw him last year on an 8.5% slope. Now, it might not be Osama who's choosing how fast he can ride here, because if he has run out of gears, remember our riders have to ride with that difficulty set, so it clamps down, so it puts that resistance in on the climb. If he doesn't have a very low gear, if he's riding an old school style block, maybe something like a 42 chainring and maybe a 21 sprocket at the back, it's not very low gear when you're going to go climbing up a 10%, 13% slope. And it means to be out the side. You're going to have to be pulling through the bars and using all of your strength as body weight as well to turn those gears around. And when we see the riders dropping down to the 50s, maybe even 40 revs per minute, that's what's happening. Now, right hand side of the screen, Pablo Popovic, 81 revs per minute. He's on a 13% slope. That means, okay, he's moving fast. He's moving at 13 kph, a bit faster than we say in Burkay, a little bit further back. But at 13, 14k, he's still revving, and it means he's got a nice low first gear that allows him to spin, keep that cadence high, to use his lungs to get that oxygen in, not supporting his body weight, not using too much of his, but using his fitness to do the business instead. You can see Phil Graves at the moment sitting again, 80 plus revs per minute as he comes into this slope. And Michael Vink just in front of him. Interesting that Vink is not right up there now as Vink dropped back a little bit here. The Danish Pavlova rider we'd expect to be right up in the mix. But Vink just really at the moment in front of Graves, dropped by the group, currently in 25th position. So 2 qualifying rides to count for our riders as they come in through the straight. Tim Cutler over the top of the slope at the moment. He's on now, coming in to the descent off from the top of the hill. He's got a gap. He pushed over the top as we saw, and now is starting to wind it. 76 kilometers per hour here from Tim Cutler, 100 revs per minute, and just coming into this steep section of minus 10%. You can just see the chasing by advantage off the, but it's now about carrying that pace onwards. Cutler now rolling down towards the lower slopes, but we know that the second section is flatter. It's only 29 meters in the next day is going to be critical, because what will happen if you're in a bunch, if you get in the draft, you've got the advantage. You're saving 20, 30, 40, 50%, depends where you are in that bunch, depends on how many riders and how fast you're going. But the flat, fast sections are where the bunch has the advantage. You can see Bjarhead currently rolling at the front of the bunch along. They're only a couple of seconds down. The race at the Mr. X100 took to the back of this group. Tim Cutler at the front of the group as they continue to squeeze onwards. But that massive pack that we saw at the start really whittled to the first hilly section, the first hilly 9 kilometers. Our bunch that started off on that start line with over 70 riders, our leading group already has whittled down. And I think we are going to see about 9 riders, maybe 10 riders left in contention at the moment. We're just going to have a quick count up here, but I think there's going to be 10 riders if you include Tim Cutler. But they're going to have, as they move through, is that we're going to hit those hills again. Now, Cutler continuing to push, now back at 3 seconds on the group, 4 seconds. So Cutler with a big push here as they go into the downhill. He's trying to use his momentum to open the gap here, and this is really interesting. Cutler is doing a lot of work here, but you can see the Yorkshire Pudding Express rider really is one. It's Ferry's teammate. Well, Ferry sat in the group. He's not going to do any work on the front, and I think Mr. X100 SS and Pablo Popovic, all of which are riding for the UAE clan teams, Safrazad as well in there, are looking to accelerate up through, looking to move the way up through the race field. And that is going to be key here, because you can just see Saeed Safrazad just at the back of this group, but they're all working at taking a turn on the front, trying to keep that gap down. And at the moment, it's 5 seconds to Cutler. So the gap is yo-yoing up and down. Cutler doing an amazing job at the moment. He's got to stay clear here. I think he's putting the attack. He needs to make them work behind. If he just sits out there on his own and just keeps pushing these watts out this big power, he's not doing any damage. He's got to basically either attack, take a few people away. That's going to be a move that is going to pay dividends, or he needs to evoke a response from the riders behind. He needs to start wearing out the UAE clan team. And we've seen this. We saw this in our last final where we had the teams attacking. Now, we've seen this in races like the Tour de France. If you haven't watched back those stages, make sure you do so and see the team in action, because we had Tadej Pogacar attacked, and the Tadej, of course, riding for the UAE team. It was in New Jersey, but the whole of the race exploded. I mean, we were talking like 100k out, 50, 60 miles out. The riders were attacking one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that is how you wear down a leader. Here, they need to wear down a team. Now, if you've got a dominant team, that might be the leader team, say, in a tour or in a road race, you've got a big dominant team. All the other teams need to fire individual riders off down the road because they just don't have that same strength in depth. And at the moment in this leading group, that strength in depth, well, it's with that UAE clan. A little bit further back, just watching Michael Vink, normally right up in the mix. A little bit further down that race field. Remember, our riders don't have to qualify at the moment in terms of the position. Once we start to fill those finals, though, it will be those positions that are going to count in the qualifiers. At the moment, they need to get 2 great rides in, though, because they want 2 qualifying rides. Their position and their category is on their performances. So our categories aren't fixed on MyWhoosh. If you're watching and you've not seen it before, and you're wondering why we've got the different jerseys, Category 1 riders, top of the tree. Our fastest riders, category sit in the middle. Category 3 are our base level that our riders come in and start at, and then we'll work up through. Now, that is based on a number of things. It's not a fixed watts per kilo. It's not a fixed area functional threshold. It's not whether you can kick out 2,000 watts in a sprint. It's a mixture of everything. Those power performances that riders can put in, that people race at and people ride at, are assessed, and then the division between Category 1, Category 2, and Category 2 and Category 3 is flexible. It moves. It gives 3 very evenly based race fields who get great, and that's what you see. And that's where you've seen a real mix of riders in this who maybe can sprint, some of whom might have a great FTP, some of whom might be great on climbing, some might have a great 20-minute power, some might have a great 20-second power. Some people like me might manage it for about 3 seconds and it's all gone. But the point of it is that it's dependent on how these riders ride and what they do in terms of performance as to which category to go in. And the aim is to give great, fair, and verifiable racing for all of our riders on MyWhoosh. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Our leading riders all proven they can do the business. They can walk what they can ride at this level. And we're seeing an absolutely class field at the front of the race here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. So here on the Sunday Race Club, right hand side of your screen, our race leaders, 13.8k, 23 minutes of racing done. So our riders on the front going clear at the front of the race. We need to see how that transpires, how that works from here on in, because those 10 riders are trying to stay clear behind all the way through that race field, but they have to be able to answer the work that's being put in by our race leaders, who are absolutely flying at this stage. And it's really interesting to watch just how fast they are moving, because this is a really impressive performance. Now, David Vargas, certainly second category riders, 33 at the moment on the road, 32. He's going to be 31 now as he moves his way up in this little group. You can just see continuing to push. He's got Will Cornish, David Milano, and around him we are seeing those leaders really pushing on as they come around this flatter section. The course, as it comes around, we've got a 9K section and an 8.9K section. So part A, B, so first half is hilly of every lap. The second half of the lap is relatively flat. 29 meters in 9K is next to nothing. Yeah, so it really is a very, very easy in terms of gradient. The problem is, if you're not in the group, if you don't survive the hills and you don't stay in the group, once those pace picks up, once the speed picks up, then you are going to be in trouble. And when that happens, that is when you are going to find yourself struggling to hold the pace, struggling to hold the speed, and struggling to stay with that leading group. And that is absolutely key, because the aerodynamics of the game, the way that MyWhoosh rides, is really realistic. It totally feels like you're riding a real bike. If you power over the top of a hill and roll down, you carry plenty of speed through. And that's one of the things that Phil Graves on the left of your screen is particularly good at. He's ridden on the game a lot. He knows exactly how to make it roll, how to get that pace and that momentum. Not in with the leading group, though. 11.3K done for Phil. Back to our leaders, Saeed Safrazad in here. Now, Saeed's another regular winner. He's one of our top men when it comes to the UAE clan team. Didn't figure in the top 10 in qualifier number 1, qualifier number 2. Neither did Yusuf Mirza. Both riders not quite in the mix. However, if they're going to now, certainly at the moment, Saeed looking pretty strong in here. He's got Bart van der Nieke in here to race against. Now, Bart van der Nieke riding for the Belgian Waffle squad. Bart has got better and better and better every time we watch him. He started off racing up with the leading group, lasting on a certain distance. Each time we see him, he goes further and further and further into the race. That's key. That's that training effect that comes from racing regularly. And let's face it, we all race really hard, and that's when you get the maximum effect. That's when you're getting that kick out, because that is what we're looking for. We're looking for the big push to push you forward, to get that performance. And once you put a number on anybody, whether you're racing on esports, on MyWhoosh, whether you are racing on a velodrome, whether you're on a crit circuit, a hill climb, that is key, and that is what we're looking for. We are looking for that pace, that power, that attack, and that comes really from doing it time and time again. And that's what these riders are doing. They're continuing to push hard to try and move up through. Now, our second category riders, of course, trying to get up into that first category. They want that training effect. Sebastian Wolf has been a regular up in the high finishing positions. You've got to watch out for him. Now, he doesn't ride at the moment for a team. I can't imagine that's going to be for long. He is a rider who's been in the top 3 he's ridden in the qualifiers. He was in 3rd place in category 2 in qualifying number 1. He was in 2nd place in qualifying number 2. Will he be able to take top spot in qualifying this time around? He's up against it, though. He's got Arago in the mix, but a little bit further up, you can just see Vink and Co. looking good. So Vink surrounded the second category riders here, and Wolf up the road by about 40 seconds. This group are chasing him and Arago. So I think we're going to have Arago leading, a Wolf in 2nd place, but Avaglio, Moreno, Burke Guyven in here, Kaigula in here, Daniel Cross in here, all for the second category prizes. Francis Ilpino riding for that climbers squad. He'll be loving the section that comes basically from our start to halfway around lap. What he's not going to look forward to is the racer section here. If you're lightweight, then riding in the slipstream is hard work. Riding on the flat is hard work. You don't generate as many watts, so your watts per kilo on the climb is great. The flat section, it's a really hard time. I can just about remember it. These days, I'm definitely more of putting the power down than I am of being a lightweight climber. That is for sure. Now, Pablo Popovic and Mr. X100 and SS continuing to push here. So the riders come their first lap here. They go through it at the end of lap number 1. Mr. X100 on the attack. This is a 6.7 watts per attack, over 500 min from Mr. X100. behind, you can see his teammates are not responding. Pablo Popovic sitting sub 5, SS sitting sub 5. Yanis Bjarhead having Sean. Is he going to be the rider who's going to take up the chase? They can't afford to let Mr. X100 go, but I think we're not going to see these riders break up just yet. A little bit sizes, maybe going to thin this down. What we do have to watch out for is that we don't see the entire team right off the front, though, because this has been done before. If they work together and the teams speaking to each other on, talking to each other. So Discord are basically a chat platform where you can talk to each other live. It uses very low amounts of data, so it's really handy when you're riding on esports. Talk to the so it might be SS, right? I'm on the front. Come on, guys, let's pick this pace up. We're really starting to put some pressure on. Mr. X100 saying, right, get the team, let's go. Time to push on here. You might have Pablo Popovic, my turn. Come on, let me have a dig on the you might be in. Same time, you might have Saeed Safraz of the UAE team on the background. Hang on a minute, guys, I'm having a hard time here. You need to get me back on before you start attacking here because we need to bring all the team up. That is what makes it such great fun to ride, particularly when you're riding in a team. It's not just the fact that on MyWhoosh we have real prizes for our riders. Only way that we're going to see esport and e-cycling, MyWhoosh as a platform, to be something that was going to attract the best riders. Well, the way to do that is to have proper prizes and people to be able to do this regularly. We've seen people like Osborne, regular competitor on MyWhoosh, really improving, signing up for the Alpecin Phoenix team, and great to see that Justin has signed up. He's a talented athlete, an Olympic medalist in rowing, regular on MyWhoosh platform, riding a great rider, and moving from De Koning, just lost at De Koning contract on MyWhoosh, and came and was picked up by the Alpecin team. And look at the results. You know, he's a pro rider able to do that, and he's managed to supplement that by winning the races, by being in a winning team, and those prize money for the teams makes a big difference. Now, just in with Michael Vink, a rider who we know can be in the mix when it comes to those prize money finals, currently sitting about 15th position at heart rate, 112, 111 beats per minute. That's relatively low. It's still falling as well, 108, 107. Now I think it'll pick up. He's just starting to wind it up. So I think just waiting for riders to come back up to him in that group that he was in. He'd just pushed on a little bit. He's now going to pick that pace back up and jump back into the group. Meanwhile, our race leaders are continuing to push. They are on the hilly section. Remember, the two parts of the course make a massive difference. We are continuing to push on here. Stefan Van Eest in here. Now, each of us are going to take their toll on these riders for different reasons. We're on to our hilly segment at the moment. So the riders on to the third light shows top right-hand side of your screen. So effectively, lap number 1 is the hilly section, 2, the flat section, 3 back onto the hills, 4 onto the flat, and then finishing with a hilly section to finish. So basically, finishing a little bit on the other side of the hills, and that makes things very tough for the riders because they have a hilly section to finish off. So anybody who's managed to stay with the group over the hills first 2 passages, and we're on our second hilly section passage, they've got to stay in through the flat, and then who's left? Well, we'll see when we come around through the start line for the final line before we run up to our finish line up in the hillside. The left-hand side of your screen, really interesting to see Liam Somerville in here. Now, Somerville's got some company, but he's not got as many with our race leaders. Those race leaders really do need to make sure that they keep together, that they keep that pack moving nice and fast. This really is going to be key as they come through. So Yanis Bjarhead in what was second place, just dropping down through that pack. And it's known as a washing machine. It's known as a churn. So as the riders push up, everybody could be doing the same watts per kilo, but as you go on the front, the aerodynamics takes effect. You drag more evident when we're on the faster sections. We're rolling in at the moment on a 1.8% slope, but you can see top right-hand side of your screen, and you can see in front of our riders. It's going to kick it off now. Here we go. Are we going to see another attack? This is where it gets steep. Remember, we've seen slopes of 13% plus on here. That's like an alpine climb. The riders at the moment are really having to get some big power down, 400 plus watts at the moment for Jonas as he comes up on to the climb. Now, can Jonas keep pushing it? He's not got the highest watts per kilo. You can see a little bit further back at Tom, Will College, David Milano, Juan David Vargas, all are pushing onwards here. They've got riders a bit further up in front that they're going to need to close down on. They're currently sitting around about a 30 plus position. Meanwhile, right hand side of your screen, the race leaders on the steep climb, 12.7%, over 400 watts required from most of our riders at this stage. Remember, it's about how many watts per kilo you can produce, how many watts you can produce, how much speed can you get up this hill. Currently traveling at 14 kph on the climb, 32 kph on the flat for our category 2 riders, and we go over the top down the far side of these slopes. That speed picks up and we can be looking at speeds of 70, 80, sometimes 90 kilometers an hour as the riders go over the far side. But it's about knowing where to push now. 13.2%. Is anybody in trouble at the back here? Has anybody pushed their heart rate too high? We're just seeing Bart Van Den Eyck out 170 beats per minute. So it's getting up there. A lot of these sort of riders will be able to go up to that sort of 200 marker. And I often find it does vary per riders. There's some real top flight pros that when they hit 155, they know that they've got limited amount of times when the riders I work with regularly Russ Downing. Once you go into those 150s, you know he's going to be in trouble. If he hits that 160 mark, he's only got so long in the 150 mark. But his resting heart rate is about 28. It is ridiculous. He can put out loads of watts, even sub 100 beats per minute. And he's a phenomenal athlete. But it varies dependent on physiology. It depends on your genetics, and it depends on the training that you've been doing. If you're at the front of a MyWhoosh race in category 1, you are an absolute class machine. And we're seeing that again. And the UAE clan team at the moment, they've got the strength in depth. We're following Mr. X100, their road captain here, pushing up the climb. They're just going to come over by the Tal Haib section. Remember, this course made up of 2 distinct sections from the green checkpoint A to checkpoint B. This is sectors number 1, 3, and 5. So the first, the middle, and the last sector as they come up and through. So that is to come through those 3 sectors. Basically, is hilly, flat, hilly, flat, hilly. Really easy. Even I can work that one out. And at the moment, our riders currently pushing over the. It's about carrying the speed. Now, speed pick up as the gradient drops as they go down a steeper and steeper hill. As they go back into a climb, it then gets tough. Now, this is a big push coming up here. Remember, they are getting used to this course. They need to know exactly how far they've got to push. They need to know what this finish feels like as they're pushing the way in here. They're on lap 3 or 5. This is a dress rehearsal. The penultimate time up to the line. So you can just see as they push in and through that time round, just getting a feel of how as they go up over and through. They need to make sure they keep this absolutely dialed as they go heading out and round, though, because it is really, really tough. So they went over the top of that climb, really pushing on. They're now going to pick up speed. KPH I've just seen. It's just easing off a little bit here from Van East as he drops in behind the rest of the riders. They're at minus 10% at the moment. Let's watch them as they start to drown here. So our riders just beginning to descend down off the slopes. Currently speed at 78 kph. You can just see that pick up in front. They're going to drop down to the lakeside. When they hit that lakeside, it's flat then all the way in and across the lake. But in front of them is a nasty, nasty hill. Now, be at the moment, a boost for watts per kilo, not going super, super hard at that moment in time, but the group has reformed here, and I think with 10 riders in the mix, Mitch Ferry, Mr. X100, Say Safrazad, Papalo Popovic, Stefan Van East, and you got Zachner, SS, Mr. X100, all mixing it up in there. The question is going to be, who is going to be able to, will it be Bart Van Den Eyck out, who's in this group as well? They know that they've got the next climb coming. You can see it in the distance here on the top of the screen. It just rises up and sweeps around to between the rocky outcrops on the Tel Murray course here, it is not an easy course by any stretch of the imagination. Even though half of the set course is essentially flat, 29 meters of climbing in it, the other half is hilly. You can see here A to B, which is where we rolled over. Well, that section very, very tough. B to A, well, nice and flat. Keeps it really simple. It's really a good 29k of climbing. That's what we want. So currently just making our way around the lakeside, and we're going to go on to the climb. Well, let's have a look. This run in. This is the rehearsals lap, if you like, lap number 3 of the 5 laps. So as they come in now, right hand side, they're onto the lakeside. 10% as they come off the lakeside, they're climbing before they hit the shore, and then it climbs some more. A bit further back, Michael Vink still chasing. Vink now up to 15th place, so this is a good chase by Michael Vink. He has in front of him, though, Sebastian Wolf and Julio Herrego. Herrego and Wolf battling it out for the front of the second category races. But Michael Vink at the moment is pushing hard here. He really does need to close the gap down on those in front. He will want to score big, and he'll want to get a real good feel for this course of how it rides when it's under pressure. All the courses feel different when you're racing them from when you just go and ride them. And that is what I was finding, whether they are at the front of the race on the right-hand side. Remember, 10 riders up the road. We've then got 4 riders in individually dropped up. So our riders in between the groups are going to have a hard time closing down on our race leader. Our race leader at the moment, Mr. X100, on the attack. He is trying to keep this gap clear. He's trying to push on here. He doesn't need to this out. I don't think he wants to take 10 riders into the final laps, into the final climbs. He's trying to whittle it down. The other thing is, of course, the best form of defense is attack, and that's what here. We're seeing Mr. X100 on the attack. Mitch Ferry is behind it now. Usually the Yorkshire Pudding Express are the riders on the attack. They're the riders who are going after the win. The UAE clan team normally control that. They do use a variety of tactics. We see Mr. X100, though, in the lead. Now, Mr. X100 has won qualifying races before. Very far, is very strong. If you want to know how strong, make sure you jump on a MyWhoosh's ride. Oh my goodness, you'll know about it when they start to wind it up on the course. Mr. X100 up over the top, up to 80 kp. The gap is out now distance-wise, as he currently has a bit more speed than the chasers behind. He's at 76. They're now starting to push up to 80, but you can see that chasing group are going to work hard here, have the advantage of strength in depth in numbers, but Mr. X. So the Mr. X100 carrying the pace, carrying the speed, but not carrying it far enough as he went in and through that time. This is really for him. He's gone to push, and he needs to get himself into the mix here. If he doesn't, he is going to be in trouble, because as he carried that pace in, the group were carrying more speed descent. They roll on to him. So we have 13.2%. The gradient, that is how our riders are having to bust the cup here. You can just see those revs of power, and they're really having to work so hard on these bikes, and this is tough stuff as they continue to push. So Mr. X100 in the mix, but he's got to continue onwards. He is in a group of 10 riders at the moment. SS is on the back of that pack. He's continuing to try and squeeze into it, but you can see just how tough this is. We're at 26.3k covered at the moment of the 44.8 kilometers in total. We're on 43 minutes of racing. But I think we are going to see one of our longest races to date, because I think this course is really testing our riders. The numbers don't suggest it would be, with 835 meters out 45k effectively racing. It's not the biggest course in terms of climbing, but what it has is it has repeatedly steep gradients. Coming up these 12, 30 slopes, lap after lap after lap, it is doing damage to these riders. They really are starting to feel the effects here. And at the moment, Pablo Popovic with Said Safrazad leading this out. The chase is on behind. The gaps are starting to open, though. And you just see Mr. X100 trying to close it down. But Popovic and Safrazad at the moment are going out and around. They're now starting to lap riders out on the. So our third category rider there just being lapped on his way through. So Popovic and Said Safrazad on the way through. Mr. X100 going to go round the side there of our third category rider. That's one back. That is be 17.9k back on the course. All of our riders completing the full race distance. It's not like a cyclocross race or similar, or a mountain bike race, or even a track race where once that checkered flag is out, it's job done. You finish at the line that time. Our riders will complete the full race distance before coming in to the finish. Now, Mr. 100 holding the power down. He's trying to close that gap down. And if you look at who has been at distance, we've got Tim Cutler, SS, Mitch Ferry, Jonas Bjarhed. They are riders. Well, Bjarhed now giving away 25 seconds to Mr. X100, who's about to make contact with this group. Mitch Ferry is further back as well. Look at Mitch Ferry working here. He's at 430 watts as he goes up this slope. But what is going to happen is the leading group are going to push over the top. And when they do, this is when it becomes really, really dangerous, because the gap will open. The physical difference between them as they go through is going to open up, and they be in big trouble here. Cutler in trouble, Ferry in trouble, SS is in trouble, Zach Nair is in trouble. The riders are trying to push onwards here, but Mr. X100 has got the potential. He could just about get into this leading group. If he does so, then it's going to make a massive difference. He's got to keep squeezing in to the leading. We are a tough day out for all of our riders. And at the moment, it is going to be about who has the pace, who has the speed. Stefan Van East looking very good indeed. And I think they may well have lapped a number of riders on the way around here, which means that that leading group are benefiting from more riders than we've seen necessarily on the right-hand side of the screen. Really interesting that they're mixing up the race here. Popovic, Said Safrazad, Mr. X100, Stefan Van Eest, all working hard. Popovic is looking good here at the moment. Pablo Popovic, Bart van den Eekhout, Mr. X100, Said Safrazad, all looking like they are really starting to push on here. Now, Popovic has got company. Now, Mr. X100 rolling up with him. He's got to continue to push here with this leading group of riders. So, our riders continue to squeeze, and they really do. We could try and break this down. Remember, they are opening up the gap on the rest of the field here. The time gaps have opened, but I don't count about 4 back. We're looking at SS. SS has company with Nair at the moment, but they are giving away big chunks of time. As you look further back down that race field, that is not good. As they come through for those riders, they know they are up against it. They know that they are on the limit, and this is making things very difficult. They have to push. They have to try and close the gap, but the problem is if you push too hard chasing a bigger group, you could well and truly blow, and then you'd end up with no energy, no way of continuing to push on. So it is very tough at the moment here for our riders. We are in that hilly section as they come round and through. They're going to start dropping back down again and get onto the flat section for a long time. And once they're on that flat section, then the bigger number you are with, so the more riders in your group, generally the faster you are going to go. So here on MyWhoosh, on the Sunday Race Club, we are seeing our leaders. We're just coming up to the 30k mark, and our race leading group has been whittled down by the constant attacking on the front of the group. We have riders distance now, and it is a big chase that the riders are having to put in. Zachner and SS at the moment are trying to close that gap down. They are currently just having a massive fight to get back into the group in front. It is all over the road, with riders being lapped in our multiple categories, all racing around on the course at the same time. So our first, second, and third category riders, but the leading group of elite category 1 riders, they went clear really early in the race. Continue to push this course, basically being a hilly half of the lap, a flat half of the lap, another hilly first half, another flat second half, and then a hilly section to finish. And it is going to be a long race time-wise today. We're currently at 2/3 race distance. We are at 50 minutes of racing, and by my count, that means we're going to be at least a 1 hour 15, I think, before our riders come in and across the line to win. And wait to be proved wrong on that. My maths is always suspect, it has to be said. Also working out race time riders, of course. Well, that could all change. We've seen an attack, the pace will go up if they all decide, do you know what, we've put in these attacks, we've all come back together again, we're just going to take a breather. That come off in the moment, 31 kph, 2% slope, so around about that 20 mile an hour mark. Those evens, as they were known way back when, really is sort of the marker that you'd expect a rider to be able to do pretty much. My pack, their inner pack. So I think there's some recovery being done with Sticks 100's heart rate, 117 at the moment. And that is definitely telling, because that heart rate really has dropped down a little bit further back on the left-hand side of your screen. That heart rate's not 117, it's 154. So Alessio Caligula really is trying to push here. And that heart rate is right up in the sky, the 155, and that could well be a threshold. That could be the point at which, after that, you're going in the red. After that, you're building lactic acid. After that, you have got limited time before it all goes wrong and you are in trouble. And that is really interesting to watch where that's kicking in for these riders. So at the moment, the heart rate now up to 157. Caligula sitting steady, holding 74 revs per minute on the front. A bellow 53 revs. That's an indication back in that pain cave, back on that turbo with the fan going. It's going to be out of the saddle, going to be really pulling on the bar, turning that round. Not many people can turn a huge gear sat down at 53 revs per minute and still put out 280 watts. And that is all about being able to push. Meanwhile, the rest of that, they are starting to struggle a little bit here. And you can see our riders well and truly spread out around the course here. So the leading group, they are on the course at the moment. Arago is a rider who I think is leading out the category. So Julio Arago currently in first place in second category racing. Abello in second. Moreno in third. Wolf in fourth. Cross in fifth. Acker in sixth position. That's in our second category. That's the left-hand side of your screen. The leaders in category 1, our best riders, they're on the right-hand side of your screen. And just watching Mistakes 100, you can see trying to ride really smart. He's trying to sit in and take draft as much as possible, get those numbers into the green. That's something that you can't do when you're on a climb on a big hill. Now, Julio really is in to push here. 42 revs per minute. That must be a huge gear. He's mullering up this climb, and he's putting out some serious power here as well. Now, a bellow, slightly higher cadence, 50 revs per minute, but this 13.3% slope is absolutely doing damage. Now, Sebastian Wolf, interesting, 61 revs per minute. That is a fast cadence out of the saddle, or it's sat down pushing a relatively big gear. And I think that's a change of gear there. We saw dig in there, because it's now going up to 70 revs per minute on the same slope. So I think that was diving easy gear. Simon Acker in this group, 100 revs. Well, that is really simple. That's sat down. There's not many people who can rev at 100 revs per minute out of the saddle for any consistent length of time, but the heart rate 185. Brutal stuff here today on MyWhoosh. The group all together in the lead once again. SS Mr. X100 Pablo Popovic, Said Stefan, a little bit further back. Mitch Ferry just about in touch with Zachner as well. but it is going to be between them. Bart van der Nico just a little further back. The big gap really back to Jonas Bjarhead, Tim Cutler and co. So Tim Cutler and co. distanced. Mr. X100 pushing once again, starting to stretch the gap out, starting to make life difficult of the other riders here. And that is definitely tough stuff as he continues to push onwards. So, who is take this out? Will it be Mr. X100? We are now over 33k in. The riders will be looking for that 10k to go point on their screens. They know that when they hit 34.8, it's 10k, 6.214 miles. And 10k is a number that's always good for people in the head because they know that they are really on the countdown, and everybody can ride 6 miles flat out. Okay, flat out. Not at the speed that these guys are going. They are absolutely flying at the moment. And you can see that pace is incredibly quick. 40 kph, 25 miles an hour at the moment for our leaders as they come up to the 35 kph mark. So quick, fast, pretty brutal racing. Who is going to take this out at the front? Will lead out? Who will be able to have anything left at the end of the race? We're going to see from that leading group of Category 1 riders. In the Category 2 competition, they're on the left-hand side of the screen. Me like Orego has been reined in a little, but still with the gap. So our race leaders at the moment in Category 2 on the left of your screen, on the right screen, your race leaders in Category 1. Maglio, Avedo, Orego on the left of your screen. They've got to push Orego just in of it coming down. The gap is at 4 seconds. And I think they all know that the top spots in Category 2 is up for grabs. Right hand side of your screen, you can just see our leaders continuing to push through. They are continuing to try and keep those gaps, but as they come into this long sweeping right hand turn, they know that they've still got plenty of hills left. That we're just an hour marker at the moment at 56 minutes and 59 seconds, 57 minutes in fact now. Orego pulled back now into the fold by our leading second category riders on the left of your screen as Mitch Ferry goes on the offensive. Now, Ferry has gone here. He's not gone a massive watts per kilo, but he's pulled out a little bit of a gap. I think he was aware that everybody was just taking a little bit of a breath. That has allowed him to push to open up the throttle, and that is going to stretch things out. So Ferry Safrazad, Mr. X100, Stefan Vantis, SS Pablo Popovic, and Zach Nair ahead of Bart van den Eekhout. Bart van den Eekhout, the nearest rider, but over a minute back on our leading group, right-hand side of your screen. A little bit further down I would say our riders always have someone to race against. You can just see Hani Amelo at the moment. He's going to be looking to close down on Faustino in front. Behind him, on Glonar and looks like Astargo behind. But Hani Amelo with a great view, and I think he's going to see the race lead is coming at him on the very similar part of the course. So at the moment, you can just see our riders in the mix. Our rider in the green, left-hand side of your screen. Our riders in the yellow on the right-hand side of your screen. The race leader is coming up, I think, here on Mail. I'm just taking a little bit of a look about into the sand. So here we go. You got a riders coming past in opposite direction, pretty much from behind. So Ferry about to overtake Melo. Here it goes. You get two views simultaneously on our screens. Great to see that. You can see the pace that the race leader is being able to put down. 42 kph coming past there, and as Melo tries to respond to this, Ferry is continuing to push on. Now Ferry has the gap. Can he take it home? Can he make this count? Melo is sandwiched in between, so Mayo is currently seeing the rest of the group go around the outside of him here, and you can see he's currently at 17k covered. 30 35.9 for Mitch Ferry. So a 35.9k for Mitch Ferry, who is pushing on. He's going to be at 40k because he's got a gap on these guys. They've got to work hard. It is a 5-second gap from the front of this group to the race leader. From the back of the group to the front of the race leader, it is near as we see them just squeezing in together. But this group know that if they want to take the win, the rider they've got to bring back is Mitch Ferry. Ferry at 36.2k, and that is definitely the case that he is the rider who should, at the moment, if we were to start the race now, take the win. However, don't forget, always have to be verified. They have to have the power meters checked and verified. So basically, they submit the data, and the team and the AI systems that are behind the scenes here at MyWhoosh check all of our riders. They check that everything conforms. There's no weird spikes to the power, that you didn't get a sudden change in temperature, that you didn't then find that the power meters weren't reading correctly, because they are sensitive to temperature change. It's okay if it's nice and stable. In the studios at the moment, the temperature basically in here basically rises and rockets up through the day as we keep things quiet in the background. The temperature, if we had a power meter in here, we could have 0 watts being kicked out to start off with, and we'd end up having a base level that's already into the hundreds of watts just because of the temperature change. And that is what is all of the riders' data being checked. And those results will remain unofficial until they get all the checks are done, then they turn to official. So our riders go through the line on the live results, then become a unofficial results until the riders are verified. That verification process finished, the riders will then be given an official race result. Our riders have to have 2 official race results to qualify to go into the finals, and that way we know that they are putting out consistently accurate rides, and it means that the racing is fair as the riders go into those finals. Finals, of course, on Sunday Race Club at the end of every month. So here on Sunday Race Club on MyWhoosh, our riders continue to push onwards. The race situation, Mitch Ferry clear by 7 seconds on the group that are chasing behind. There are 9 riders chasing 1 as they close down Mitch Ferry for the Yorkshire Pudding Express, a team known for its aggressive attacking and riding. At the moment, Ferry, the only representative left in the front group, has gone clear, and this has put the pressure onto SS Pablo Popovic, Mr. X100, and Saeed Safrazad, the 4 riders in that leading group of 10 who have the same team, the UAE clan team, with the strength in depth in that race lead. The other riders are in 1s and 2s, and that is definitely taking its toll. Belgian Waffles, Zach Nair has lost Bart van den Eek out. He has gone off the back. He has retained Stefan Van Eest, so they do have 2 riders in there. Van Eest and Nair is still in that leading group. But because the pressure has been on so hard, it has shelled rider after rider out of the back of the group, and this is what's taking its toll. We now come up to the what is going to be an 8k to go point now. So 8k to go, just over 5 miles, 5.3 miles, and looks as the team just closing down Mitch Ferry. So the gap just coming down, and the group has reformed here. This is going to be really interesting as we move on. We're just over an hour's racing complete of our leading group back together again. The last rider in the group, Nair, the lead rider at the front, Mr. X100 blue bandana from the UAE clan squad. Jonas Bjarhead distanced now at 2 minutes, currently sitting in 11th position, with Tim Cutler and Co. all being blown out of the back of this group. We're into our hilly sector. Remember, in the last 9k of this race, there's 259 meters of climbing. Phenomenal amount of riders, and they're about to hit the big slopes now. Right hand side of your screen, left hand side of your screen, leaders in category 2. And those leaders in category 2 Well, they're trying to take away the win. Now, Johan Moreno, the rider who had pushed on, has closed the regular. They've reformed, they've regrouped. It's split and it's regrouped again a little bit, but we'll be able to watch them come in. Don't forget, of course, so don't forget, once our live coverage has finished, then the race results on the MyWhoosh website. That's mywhoosh.com, and just click on to the results. Make sure you jump onto Instagram. It's MyWhoosh, and on Twitter, my_whoosh. Whilst you're on there, get signed up, download the app, come and have a go, come and have a ride. If you're going down to Europe today, jump onto stand B15 in Hall 11.1. That will get you to the MyWhoosh stand and jump on the bikes, talk to the professional riders down there from the ADQ squad and from the E squad, and just what it is all about. You've got a chance to win a Colnago as well on the stand. Today, the last day of the Eurobike stands down in Frankfurt. But if you're watching at home, if you're watching afterwards, then don't forget, of course, all of our results on our website. And don't forget, of course, as well as downloading on there, you can follow us all over those social media platforms. If you are on social media, don't forget to give me a follow. It's Matt Fixpain. That is on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter as well. And you can always catch up with me every Sunday on the Sunday Race Club. Lots of develops, the coverage continuing to change and develop as we move through with time, and looking forward to bringing some increased updates next time around. I'm going to be joined by a new co-host on the show, so a second voice joining me here, and looking forward to being able to bring you more insights and more information on the riders as the racing is in progress. Now are approaching the 5K to go marker, 44.8K in total to do. The slopes taking their toll. This group is staying together though, and nobody has been able to snap the elastic, to quote that well-known and quite well-hackneyed commentary phrase. As we hit 5K to go, the riders on that slope, 10.1 at the moment, ease off pretty quickly as we go over and past the Telma Reeb on the right-hand side in the green. We pass that, we go past the MyWhoosh banner. The gradient drops to 5%. It's continually now, and this is where being able to push over the top is key. Mr. X100, he knows what he's doing. He's already seen the danger of easing off over the top on the previous laps. He really wants to push now. He's taking clear, mate, with SS on his wheel here. So the UAE clan team are going clear with two riders. The third rider trying to go across is also from the clan team. So is the fourth rider. Are they going to get a top four? They have to push on here. They don't want to take any of the other teams, though. Stefan Van Elst has seen the danger. So is Mitch Ferry, and this is going to come back together again. So that speculative, that cheeky move there as they rolled over the top has not paid off for the UAE clan team. They were looking to team time trial, I think, to the finish. Now are well inside that last 5K, and this is making a big, big difference. So it's going to be 4K to go in the next 350 meters or so. This is going to be very telling. Now, who is going to be able to take victory as they come up to the line? We're just watching riders, seeing whose heart rate is high. Well, they're all pretty high at the moment. Who's got the pace? Who's got the power? Who is going to be able to kick on here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club? We know the riders are going to give it absolutely everything. Mr. X100 is in here. The road captain has teammates around him. Pablo Popovic, Said Safrazad in there. SS is in there. They've got the strength in Dan East and Nair looking to take this away from them for the Belgian Waffle squad. But they are now going to be racing, I think, for solo victory because they are up again in the team competition. Mr. X100 goes again. He's now up at 6.6 watts per kilo, 500 plus watts. He's really putting in an early attack here, and this is really starting to take its toll on the road. We need to respond to this, and Mitch Ferry is going to lead the charge. Mr. X100, he's backed right off the pace there. All of a sudden, Mr. X100, was that a bit of a bluff? He eased right off. We saw 1.8 watts per kilo. I think he realized he hadn't got the gap. He's backed up. He's really just trying to toy with him. He's just kicking on, easing off, maybe just trying to get a response off the rest of the riders. Now, 1.8 the 44.8 covered. We're going in across the late side. We saw this on the previous laps, 0%. But what's in front? We've got this big kick. We've got this horrible ascent here that is going to really take its on. This time, don't expect to see 9, 10 riders coming in and over the top together. If anybody has anything left in those legs, they're going to want to roll into this slope at pace and hit the bottom of it when that gradient kicks in. Absolutely flat out. For a climber, this is going to be your chance to take it away. We're on 42.2. It's going to be 40.3 now. Those kilometers ticking away. 44.8k is race distance now. The riders continue to push, but Van den Eeck is continuing to kick on here. He's got back in. They've really got to push now. They're on to the slopes. Who has got anything left in those legs? Can anybody take away the top spot from the UAE clan team? They're going to overtake our riders on the previous lap here, just diving around the sides of them as they come up. Mr. X100 is leading this out. Has he got the gap? He's at 1 second. It looks like next to nothing. Those gaps are compressed on the hill when it comes to the distance, but the gap is there now at 6.1%. We're coming up. The distance is ticking on. The gradient is at 10.7%. I mean, it's missed 100 on the front for the UAE clan team. His teammate is trying to bridge across to the other side. Safrazad, but Zach Nev, Stefan Van Eester are on the wheels, but so is Pablo Popovic. So the clan team are dropped. They've dropped your head. It looks like Van den Eeck is just about in touch. And Mr. X100 on the front of the race here. And can he hold this gap? The distance continues. He's got 2K to go, 2,000 meters to stay in the race lead. Popovic behind. Now, Popovic's got to be careful. He doesn't tow the rest of the race across. He's sitting in the front of that group there. He needs not to do too much work. I don't think Mr. X100 will be particularly forgiving if he sees his teammate tow them across. I think Popovic has put a proper kick in now at 7 watts per kilo. He's wanted to get across. He's got the gap now. So Popovic has got the gap on Bart Van den Eeck. Popovic is coming. Is it going to be a UAE clan team or 1-2? 43 kilometers on the clock. 1.8k left to go. And things are getting interesting here. Popovic is trying to come across the gap. Van den Eeck is behind. This is going to be close now. Will Popovic close it down? You can see the chasers on the left of your screen. This is the group that's coming together. They are going to have Popovic and Mr. X100 in front to chase down. Popovic, the rider on your screen now. Mr. X100 in the lead ahead. We have 1.5k to go, 1.4 now. As these riders keep on pushing, 1.3, the speed has picked up. We're at 80 kph. We've gone over the crest. We've got another kick to come. And who is going to come on to that? It's minus 10% nearly. The run down to the line is frantic. 2 seconds back to Popovic. 9 seconds to Safrazad. He's again. Mr. X100 has to So who's got the pace? Who's got the attack? Who's going to bring this home? Mr. X100 is just in the race lead. We're at 44k with 800 meters, and the group has come back together again. The group's back together, and Zach Nair has gone over the top. He's kicking at 8.5 watts per kilo. He's got to continue to push, so this is going to be brutal. 13.5% with 700 meters. It's going to be 600 meters to go very shortly. That distance, so he's not going to tick away quickly as these riders continue to kick up this slope. This is not a good office if your legs are going pop now. And you saw the effort from Mr. X100. He's picked up the pace, so he's got back in after that big attack. Nair, Van Eest, Van den Eeck, all in the mix. Zach is leading this race with less than 600 meters. He has a 3-second lead. It looks tenuous at the moment, though. That distance is still in reach. The chasers behind, they've got to pull that gap back. They've got to close the gap down. Mr. X100 makes a contact with the back of the chasing four riders. So then we have Van Ace, Van den Eekhout, Popovic, Safrazad, and Mr. X100. I think the UAE clan team are going to be nailed on for the team win here. The four riders, one of their race set up completely, and still they have counters with 3 counting riders to qualify, but they won't be content with that. They will not want to be 3rd down to 7th. They will want to be right up in race wins. Nair in 1, Van Ace in 2, Popovic in 3, Safrazad in 4, Van den Eekhout in 5, Mr. X100 in 6th position as we come up this slope. Nair and Van Ace, though, with a 3-second gap. Time is starting to run out. We're at 250 meters to go at this point, and it looks to me like all of a sudden there's been a rider join them at the front. It's Pablo Popovic. Popovic is now kicking on over the top. I think he's got the timing just right here. It's going to be Popovic. You can see that MyWhoosh banner in front. He's currently with 200 meters, less than 200 meters to go. He's going to be close. Popovic, who takes the win. It goes on forever. You just see how hard this slope is. Popovic can see the banner. It's the yellow gantry coming up in front. Will he make it? He's got that behind. Pablo Popovic puts in the pace, he puts in the pressure, he takes the race win here on MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. What a ride by Pablo Popovic behind Stefan Van Est to be the second rider in. Van Est is going to take 2nd place here today. It's going to be Nair in 3rd position with a big sprint in towards the line. The top 3 will be Popovic, Van Elst, and Nair. Behind Bart Van den Eekhout is going to take what is going to be a Safrazad is pushing all the way to the line, and you can just see the pressure is on for all of these riders in that team competition. So it's Popovic, Van Ace, Van den Eekhout, Safrazad, and Mr. X100. They're your top 6 riders who are in and through the line at the moment. So we have 6 riders home. Those gaps really have opened up. His race winning time, 1 hour 15 minutes and 27 seconds. And we thought it'd be a long race. He definitely picked up the pace towards the end of the race. So now our next rider coming in, it's going to be Mitch Ferry, who is going to come in. He's going to go into take away what is going to be a 7th place. Now we're just going to have a look at the times. Teams, it is really close in that teams competition. The reason for that, because Van den Eekhout came back in touch, and we have a Belgian Waffles 2, 3, 4. The UAE clan team, they have the top spot and 5th and 6th place. Who has done enough? Well, at the moment, remember, this is the unconfirmed, unofficial result. It looks to me like it is going to be the UAE clan team take the race victory with Popovic and take the team victory. Their time as they come in and through, the total time is 3 minutes 47 as their teammate SS comes through. So it's 3 hours 47 minutes 0 seconds 0.375 for the Belgian Waffle Squad. 47 minutes 2 seconds 0.361. So at the end of the racing between Team 1, the UAE clan team, and Team 2, the Belgian Waffles team, came down to less than 2 seconds, separating our race-winning team, the UAE clan team, who also take the race victory. But the strength of that Waffle squad, it's something. It must be the food of champions, because they are absolutely flying. And Van Est, Zach Nair, and Van den Eekhout will be taking a lot of heart from that tough race today. 8 of our riders in and through. 1 Van Est in 2, Nair in 3, Van den Eekhout in 4, Safrazad in 5. Mr. X100 is in 6th place, Ferry in 7th, S in position. Now, a little bit further down the course, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, we have our riders battling it out for position in the 2nd category competition. And it's going to be very, very close in this competition. They're currently at K to go. They do have riders in between them and the finish, with Costa, Cutler, Bjarhead, all to make the way into the line. It should be Bjarhead who's going to come in 9th place. Cutler in 10th and Costa in 11th position in the Category 1 competition, but Category 2 riders still battling into the line. Don't forget, whether you're in Category 1, 2, 3, you can catch up with the team results on the MyWhoosh website. That's www.mywhoosh.com. Don't forget, of course, to join up to get it downloaded now on Windows as well as on the Apple applications and on the apps on your iPhone. So you can mirror it up from your iPhone. You can play it on your iPad. You can put it onto your big screen, your paying cave, whatever you need to make Jets the best experience. Don't forget, of course, you can watch live simultaneously. There is always, as with all streaming, that's and something that I've experienced, whether it's commentating at the World Championships right the way to the Commonwealth Games, the Olympics, wherever you commentate, you always know there's going to be a timeline between seeing the action, putting the words in, getting them broadcast, and you being able to download them and get them up onto your screen. But it does kind of information. You see the lead, you see the race that's going on, you'll be able to see those results. A lot of people with the race on one screen, with the app on the phone as well, and also everything on the side. So make sure you come and join us on MyWhoosh. We have seen an amazing race here today, with victory going to the UAE clan team in the individual race with Pablo Popovic, and taking the team by less 2 seconds from the Belgian Waffle squad. Amazing racing here today. In qualification round number 3, we have our women's race coming up very shortly. Don't forget to come back on and join us for that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and that will mean that we are able to let you know exactly when we're good to go. So from me, Matt Payne, it's been a great putting words to the action. Make sure you catch up with us in this race and for our next qualifiers next weekend.